Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and this is Taking Care of Business. Joining me today is Elma Beganovich, who is a superstar influencer with her sister Amra in New York City. They have over 2 million followers on social media, and they run their own digital marketing agency. Thanks for joining me today, Elma.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, let me just start by asking, how does somebody get to 2 million followers?
Sure. So I mean there's countless of different ways to go about it, but one of the main, I think, and that has remained true since basically the beginning, if you will, of social media, is that you have to have really, I think, unique and spectacular and interesting content. So content's still king, no matter which way you turn. So one of the ways to gain followers is through content, spectacular content, especially if you're just starting out. The other way as well, but again, it's again that spectacular content will always be the base. There will be the pillars that support everything else. The other way is to have partnerships, so partnerships with other accounts who are, who share a similar, basically, target demographic as you do.
Okay, let's talk about social media first of all in business. How do you feel about businesses right now that are really not into social media space? Are they making a gigantic mistake?
Absolutely. So, social media is for free. It used to be you would have to pay ads in Vogue or other lifestyle magazines if you were in that direction, or if you were B2B, you would have to pay ads to Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, and so forth. So social media is for free. They're free eyeballs. It's basically for free for the brand to influence whatever, space you're in and whatever you're trying to gain basically an authority in. So yeah, I think it's a big mistake not to look at that.
So how can people, or maybe the other way around, I'm going to ask you, like, what are the most common mistakes, I guess, businesses make when it comes to social media and their social media presence?
So I think one of the most common mistakes is if they're not investing, is to say we're just going to get an intern, or someone fresh out of college. It's just become, the technology has become so sophisticated that you need somebody who is basically an adult, right? Or, professional in the space. So to sort of craft a strategy for you rather than, just doing it, having a kid, or again, like maybe an intern while still in college, but not taking it seriously. So because it's basically become like what used to be window shops on Fifth Avenue, let's say. So it's the first thing that, the consumer, or even if you're B2B, who they see about your business, who you are. So they look at the followers, they look at the content, they look at your messaging, and they judge you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And what about, let's talk a little bit about influencers. First of all, I think it's a term that's tossed around a lot, but I don't think a lot of people truly understand what it means. What does the term influencer mean to you?
Influencer has become, so when we started about 10 years ago. So Facebook pages wasn't even out yet when we started. So then an influencer meant something very different than it does fast forward to 2021, right? And so obviously Facebook has developed enormously. TikTok has come onto scene, Snapchat, Pinterest, and so forth, YouTube, obviously. So now, you can have political influencers, for example, AOC and Obama. They're also, yes, he's a former president, but they're also influencers, right? They also they work with advertisers too, on certain deals. So it's athletes are now influencers, right? They're also getting sponsorships through social media. And
Yeah.
then you have your, maybe this like traditional, what you think of as an influencer is somebody who is, making spectacular content, giving something very useful, whether it is, they could be giving like new applications, reviewing them. So tech influencers, it could be healthcare influencers, financial influencers, or, fashion influencers. So it's really basically across different verticals, across different industries, and they've all taken sort of their, spaces, and they're exerting their influence in that space.
Okay, super. So if you're a startup or a business or small business, how can you use influencers to, I guess, improve your business and sales, business performance?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is that you should do, even if you don't have the budget, and I talked about that in the beginning, you can maybe hire a part-time consultant, right? Even to work with an agency on, a small scale basis to test the water, so to speak. So, start with that because you need someone to give you smart strategy advice. So it's not necessarily you're going to ultimately be saving a lot rather than just kind of throwing, dots in the dark and hoping something's going to stick. So, as a small business or a startup, you should basically, invest in the sense to understand who the true, and we talked a little bit about that in a Forbes article, epicenter of influence. So it could be someone who's actually significantly smaller. I'd like to give example of Brian Boy versus Chiara Ferragni. They're both influencers in the fashion space. Brian Boy has fraction of following that Chiara does, but Chiara I think has about 25 million followers. She listens to him even though I think he has less than a million followers. So you just got to find these basically smaller niche influencers who are really influential in their industries, right? They influence other influencers, and other celebrities also follow them because they're such an authority in that space, even though they're not as visible, as notorious to the public at large.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to what one of the references you made about using an intern. You know, here, I guess here's the dilemma a lot of small businesses have, right? They know that they have to get into into the social media space in some fashion. Uh, the owner of a company is too busy doing the business of the business, right? And so they often hire these people, as they call it, interns, or young people right out of college or university, and it just seems to me a really bad strategy because they may have the mechanics in place, but they don't have the knowledge, experience of what truly makes good content and what good content is, right?
Right. Yeah, my advice on that, it's going to take, with less resources, it's going to take you more time, but you can still get to your goals. So just be patient, be willing to even work with that consultant, I don't know, 1 hour a week, right? So, and that's still better than, even having an intern or someone fresh out of college without experience, without, responsibility, take understanding how serious your business is to you.
Yeah.
Um, to have them work, and it could take a month or 2 or 3, but have somebody basically work steadily and consistently, and don't think because you engage one influencer and you don't see results right away that's indicative of what the strategy would look like long term. So
Yeah.
6 months into it, or a year, 12 months into it. So be patient, and I would say, invest time. You don't have to obviously invest all your time, but small amount of time carefully thought through will yield you the results.
And why is content still king?
Content, yeah, content is fascinating because people are always on the internet looking for valuable content. They're looking for advice. So let's say, you're a food company or even a fashion company, right? So, retail, whatever you're doing, is provide something that's of value to your consumer at the end of the day. So if you're a food company, provide them a recipe and be creative. For example, now holiday entertaining, people are looking for new things. They're looking for new ideas. So you can say, let's do quick recipes for, family get-togethers or for friend get-togethers using, and then you provide basically the products, right? And one of them
Yeah.
happens to be your product. So always do about it, or like holidays, what to wear, something, if it's at home entertaining, this sort of at home pandemic lifestyle, like what to wear, right? So you can always, think about being creative and thoughtful in terms of the content, and then positioning yourself. You can do fun content, and that's what all of this, your mobile phone allows you to do, and obviously your laptop as well, your computer. So just to kind of get that traction, to get those eyeballs. And then social media has such algorithm that once they see other people are looking, they basically bump you up in their algorithm, and so you get more exposure.
Yeah.
So just a little creativity goes a long way.
So, I'm a business owner, right? I'm running Mario's clothing wear in Calgary, Alberta. how do I decide where to spend my money? There's so much out there, where do I spend my money? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. Like, what's your advice for companies when they're faced with that kind of question and dilemma?
That's a really good question. So you have to basically, and this again, like, requires a professional or research, or, for you to go thoughtful way about it. Each platform is basically, some are better than others for particular industries. So vertical. So for clothing, for example, Instagram is one of the best, right? So you have to know that, versus, for example, interior design, we would tell our clients steer them to Pinterest, right? So sort of, understand
Yeah.
where your industry, where the target demographic is concentrated. So for fashion, for example, right? So we mentioned Instagram. TikTok is becoming pretty good, but TikTok is now for the younger audiences, right? So maybe depending, you have to be thoughtful. What kind of clothing am I selling? Am I, targeting your sort of like millennials, Gen X, or baby boomers? Like, where am I going? And then according to your target demographic you're selling to, then you decide which of the platforms is best to use.
So if I had a clothing company that was geared to white men over 50 years old, it wouldn't be wise to go on the TikTok then.
No. That is, yeah, you're more looking to influence the younger minds on TikTok. Yeah. That,
Exactly.
yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about another trend that we're starting to see in the social media world is the live streaming. Can you talk a little bit about that? What exactly it is, how it's being used, and why it's a neat way to grow business?
Live streaming is very exciting. So I think it was 55 billion in 2019 in China that it reached that, that market.
Wow.
And so I think now, and I've seen the way where companies like Amazon and YouTube and TikTok are investing. They're, TikTok obviously is from China, so they already, they understand the business behind it. Amazon Live has been investing significantly, and YouTube just launched basically where content creators are selling their own things. So it's very powerful for, I think, for small businesses especially, because you're able to sell directly to your consumers. So you basically, and that's why influencers are just going to become more powerful, because you have influencers, whereas before it had to be like TV personality or someone, and now there's, millions that you can basically engage as a brand, and then they go and they directly sell your products. So for clothing, obviously you can showcase the different clothing. You can talk about the materials, for example.
Yeah.
The influencer can model the clothing. So, and then your consumers are directly watching that any time of the day. And then they can just click below the screen, shows up different pieces that you are selling, and they can just directly shop. So it makes it really, really easy for the consumer, and for example, on Amazon, like most people have an Amazon Prime account. So they just click and they directly buy. So with businesses, that's, it's right away. People are excited. They like, obviously, live. It's entertainment coupled with shopping. So it makes it great.
So Elma, I just want to talk to you a little bit about what you guys do. So obviously, you guys seem to be a perfect example of how you can leverage social media, from the beginning to where you are now. First of all, let me just ask you, like, how did you guys start in social media, and when?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, so this was late 2012 when we started. It was at very, very early stages. I was at Georgetown Law. I was finishing my LLM in securities and financial regulation, which is very different from what we do now. And my sister, who, as I mentioned, is also my business partner, she was working on World Bank projects. This is all in Washington, D.C. So it was very different, traditional career paths. And yeah, we started, basically, we saw a need in the space. And I think to credit my sister, she was the visionary behind it, because a lot of people at the time, there weren't so many do-it-yourself blogs, right? And a lot of people felt very disconnected from, your Vogue, from Harper's Bazaar, where they were advocating, to spend tens of thousands of dollars on skincare or clothing. Most people cannot afford that. So my sister saw this unique opportunity. She said, why don't we write about, for example, affordable travel destinations, right? Like how to, how to look good with us on a certain budget, right? So sort of this do-it-yourself content. And we started putting, she stayed up one night, made the blog, she learned HTML, a little bit of coding, CSS, put it up, and then we utilized Facebook basically to gain tractions. And Facebook just launched pages, and we basically came right in and we started promoting our blog content. And then we were also savvy that we had our network of friends who were excited about what we were doing. They also started writing blog posts, and then they started telling their friends on Facebook, and it was all just kind of this huge network effect. And we have 3 months into it, over 100,000 visitors on our blog.
And I guess that's the key, right? Is that people don't understand the domino effect that can take place in social media once others share and like things and are engaged with it, right?
That's right. And that again brings me to content. That's why content's so important for you to be thoughtful. You can be thought provoking, or it can be visuals that are amazing, or it can be really useful to your, to the end consumer. So whatever you're doing, you can, basically create these conversations and these viral movements through content. So, and you can be thinking of content while you're just, out on your daily walk, right? So it's that easy. And so long as you're thoughtful about it, and then you see certain trends, and then your mind starts, going in that direction, and just one thing builds on top of other. And that's why, yeah, social media, I think it's perfect for that creative, outlet.
Okay. And when did you start the actual company?
So the advertising agency, we started actually, it was May 2015 when we registered it, and a little bit before, because we initially started as influencers. So what companies were basically asking us, they were like, well, how can we work with you outside of just you being an influencer? And the repeated request on our end, and again, this was in early days, was, well, can you replicate the same model of success that you've had on social media? Can you do it for us? So, essentially, Amra and I came together, and then, we agreed. I thought, let's just do content. She said, let's do social media, but knew basically if we accepted social media, we had to do content for the companies as well. So we unbeknowingly became a marketing agency, because we were in this space. Again, it was all by accident, I think, right place at the right time. But I think still for whether it's small businesses, entrepreneurs, think of the opportunities that technology, which it is, especially now during the pandemic, is providing you with. So it's really worth taking a look into. Okay,
super. Well, that was a real pleasure meeting you and talking to you about this, Elma. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Mario.
All right, super. That was Elma Beganovic, who with her sister Amra is a digital marketer in New York City. The both of them are described as superstar influencers with more than 2 million social media followers. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, and this has been Taking Care of Business. Thanks for joining us today.